Hey, y'all, welcome back to the podcast solo episode today. And I am kind of excited about recording this episode. It's something that has been on my heart to share over the last little while. One of my assistants actually said, Christina, you need to talk about this. And it is something that I have been experiencing lately, and it's something that a few of my clients have been talking about lately. And I'm not going to say that in general, a lot of people are talking about this, but I feel like there's definitely a season of it, no matter where you are in your life. It could be like everyone else is blowing and going, but you could actually be in this season as well. And it is a season that is kind of slow. And what I mean by that is perhaps it is slow in your business. Perhaps it is slow in your career. Perhaps it is slow in your relationships. Perhaps it is slow in your personal life. Perhaps it's slow in your health journey, whatever it is. But there's seasons that feel really slow. And my assistant and I were talking about this because she and I are kind of in this slower season ourselves. And just in talking about it, she's like, Christina, you've got to talk about this because more people than you probably know are experiencing this. And perhaps maybe you're not in this season right at the moment, but perhaps you have been, or perhaps you will be in the future. Because just like anything, there's seasons that are extremely busy, and then there are seasons that are super slow. And I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are high achievers. You are a person who wants more in your life. But there's also these moments where things are a bit slow, and it can be difficult, especially as a high achiever. It can be super difficult to be okay with a slow season. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, and how, I'm navigating this slow season, how my assistant and I were talking about this, but also a few of my clients have had these slower seasons lately. And I really hope that this episode today can help you reframe this slower season. I hope to give you a few takeaways of things that I've been doing or things that I've been talking about with clients in a slower season. So perhaps this podcast is really going to resonate with you, but perhaps it's maybe one you want to save for the future, or maybe it's one that you can kind of use to help a friend. I always say that this podcast is not only for you and I together to connect each week, but it's also to hopefully be a blessing to someone else. In my business model, I only work one-on-one with people. I work one-on-one to help them through different seasons of their life or their business or their career. And I often say that, I don't need to impact 1,000,000 people. If I can impact just, a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand over my career, but you take that and you impact another person, and the ripple effect is huge. So perhaps today you're going to be able to take one thing that you hear to not only help yourself, but maybe impact a friend or a family member who is going through a slow season as well. But I really wanted this to be about how I have created the muscle to really be in peace in slower seasons. And so what I mean in a slower season for me personally right at the moment is my business is in a really nice place where I am not growing exponentially. I've mentioned it on this podcast before. I really only work with a very limited amount of people because, number one, I'm super blessed for the people that I get to work with. I create a really nice income, but I also have a life outside of my business that is extremely important to me. And it's something that I feel like I've wanted. I really do believe I help people create lives that are aligned to them. And I do believe that I live in alignment to what I preach and teach all the time. I don't want to create a machine in my business. I have zero desire to do that. I have created a very nice life. I've created a business that I fucking love. I love my clients. I love what I get to do on a daily basis. I love the small team that I have. And I love the fact that I have a ton of flexibility outside of working with my clients and doing this podcast and doing the speaking engagements and the events that I get to do. And yes, I do work a lot, but I also have a lot of freedom and I have a lot of free time. And that's something that I really want. However, I also have pockets where I do feel slower. And as a person who has spent most of her life always trying to, get to the next level or fill her days with so much stuff, because I think for a big portion of my life, I always associated being busy and working all the time with being successful. And it has taken me a lot of reprogramming to say that, like, I am okay with having slow moments, slow seasons. A personal example is something that would have triggered me to, like, I am not kidding. Like, I would have gotten in a fist fight. It used to trigger me so much, is when my husband used to say to me, playing golf today, it must be nice. You went and got your nails done today, it must be nice. You went for, lunch with a girlfriend, or you went for 2 walks, must be nice. And like, there was seasons, you guys, I am not kidding, where I used to base my worth and base how I felt about myself based upon how much I was working or how many things I had on my schedule. Like, yes, I love waking up super early. I wake up usually between 4 and 5 in the morning. Usually my alarm goes off at 4:44. I don't know why I just picked that number. I'm not even really a magic numbers girl, but I just kind of like looking at that on my phone. But that's usually what time I wake up. Nathan wakes up about 15 minutes before that, and he is out the door. So when I get out of the bed, I am alone and quiet. And I love that quiet time for about a good hour while he's at the gym. I am just in my thoughts, in my peace and quiet. There's nothing that makes me happier than a quiet morning. But I do get up early, but I'm also like, even though I do work a lot, and even though I am not afraid to work hard, I also don't base my worth. I don't base, who I am and my happiness based upon, filling every moment of my day with something just to make me feel like I'm productive. And I know that so many of you listening to this, perhaps you felt the same. Perhaps you felt like, well, that's the way I was raised, or that's what got me to where I'm at, or that's the only way that I know how to act. And I've had so many clients over the years come to me because they are really addicted to the chaos. They're addicted to the adrenaline of filling their days and making sure they can say, well, I did this, and this, and I barely ate and barely slept. And, it's like we live in a bit of that hustle culture. And I'm not saying that there isn't seasons where you have to do that, but there's also these slow seasons. And in these slow seasons, if you don't know how to allow yourself to be still, if you don't allow yourself to have these slow seasons, it's kind of like, what's the point of it, right? When you're in the hustle, you're trying to get to the point where you have the freedom and you have the flexibility and you have the okay. But when you get there, if you are not okay with allowing yourself to be there, it's kind of like, what's the point? And it's really about reprogramming that. The client call that I had right before recording this podcast was, I had a client tell me how, she kind of felt bad that she stayed in her sweatpants until 12 o'clock on a Monday. And I was like, hold the phone. I want you praising yourself through that, because one of the beautiful blessings about creating your own schedule and being your own boss is that you do have that flexibility. So if you're going to make yourself feel bad about it because you don't think you should be doing that, quote unquote, should be doing that, then what's the actual point? Like, you have to allow yourself the space, because being an entrepreneur, for anyone who's done it, there is moments where you're like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Because it does not seem worth it. But then there's those little moments where you get to stay in your sweats until 12 o'clock, where you have the flexibility to change your schedule. For myself, having the flexibility to pretty much be done 4 days a week by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon is such a blessing. But it also takes a ton of reprogramming to allow yourself to be okay with that. And perhaps there's a couple of you who are saying, oh my God, I would be okay with that. Well, trust me, it's, you say that, but really allowing yourself to do that is a completely different ball game. And there's a lot of people that feel bad. And you know, in this moment in my career, I am having a bit of a slower season. I'm not bringing on a ton of clients. I don't have a ton of extra things going on. And like I said in the beginning of this, my assistant and I were talking about it, and she's like, how are you staying calm during this? How are you staying at peace that the next opportunity will come and that things are going to work out? And it's not like I'm in a bad space, but also if you allow yourself to go there, because normally I have a full roster of 30 clients. I normally have, you know, a few speaking engagements going on. Right now, I'm in the process of planning this amazing event with one of my clients. We're hosting an in-person women's event in Vancouver, Canada. If you want more details on that, be sure to send me the word event to 501-222-3362. We only have a couple of tickets left, so be sure to send me a message on that. But, you know, even with that, those things in my business right now, it's a bit of a slow season. And I will tell you how I've been getting through it. And so I kind of wrote down a couple of things about how I'm allowing myself to really be at peace during this slow season. And that's what it really is, to be honest with you. It's myself allowing myself and regulating myself and reprogramming the stories, the thoughts, the habits, the patterns that I have about always being in the hustle. And I've been doing this over the course of years, guys. Like, this doesn't happen overnight, but allowing myself to be in the slow season and trust it's for a purpose and a reason, because I never know. There might be an opportunity that knocks on my door with, it might be today, it might be tomorrow, who knows, or it might be soon, that puts me into the next gear again, where I am no longer in a slow season, where I don't have the flexibility to, you know, go for a walk at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, or I don't have the flexibility to play golf twice a week. And so, and I know that this might sound really weird for some people, because there could be people that are listening who are thinking, oh my God, like, why are you sad about having a slow season? Well, if you've always been programmed to be in the hustle season, slow seasons can be difficult. They can be hard. And I know that there is a person listening to this who feels me through and through, because I'm not the only one. I guarantee you. I was talking with a client just the other day who said that she had a really slow season in her business, and that made her feel extremely uncomfortable, like she was doing something wrong, like she had to be doing more and trying new things and doing all this stuff. And I was like, hold the phone. If there's seasons in life that are going to be slower, you don't always have to do more. And I know that that can sound so counterintuitive, and there is moments where if certain things aren't working, you will have to do it differently. But I promise you, allowing yourself the peace and the space to trust in the slow seasons is one of the greatest things that you can do. And for myself personally, it is a matter of literally consciously every single day allowing myself to slow down and telling myself to slow down. And there are certain times where if I'm having a slow day, if I only have 2 to 3 client calls in a day, that's only 3 hours. So I don't want to force myself to do like busy work, or I definitely don't want to get on my phone and scroll, because dear God, that makes you feel 1,000 times worse. I literally, for me personally, it's about doing things that I love. I have actually had space to read books that I've actually wanted to read before. And guess what? They're not all workbooks. I was telling just a client the other day, thanks to my other assistant who I was talking about, I have actually, and this sounds so weird, but like, it was the first time I've ever read fiction books in my life. And I've read a couple of them lately, and I've given myself the space to do that. I've given myself the space to really dive into a devotion devotional that I'm really liking right now. And I've allowed myself the space to go for longer walks. I've allowed myself the space to sit in my backyard and just be instead of get on my fucking phone. And like, there's been so many moments that I've allowed myself to, play golf a couple times a week and not make myself feel bad about it. I've gone and got massages and facials and all that kind of stuff, but I've also allowed myself the space to just be, to just exist, to be outside. There's nothing that makes me feel better than allowing myself to just be outside. For me, outside is like church. It is like where I hear God. It has allowed me the space to like think of new ideas. It's allowed me to like create this event with my client, Brittany. Like, we're hosting this event in Vancouver, Canada. And in this slower season in my personal business, it's allowed me to take the time, energy, and effort to put in doing this other opportunity. And I wouldn't have had that had I been maxed out by taking on so many more clients and doing so many more speaking opportunities and coaching inside of, corporations and corporate events. I mean, I've allowed myself this kind of quiet season, and it's been nice. But there has been those old versions of Christina that's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Why aren't you booking more calls? Why aren't you taking on more clients? Why aren't you making more money? And all of these things that, like, those little voices in the back of your head pop up. And honestly, for me, that is like greed and evil, and just like, it's not where I want to be. I want to always allow myself the space to have like these God whispers, to allow myself the space for creativity, for allowing myself the space to like do things that just make me happy, like just bring me joy. That is like so counterintuitive to so many people, to think that you can just sit and read a book for no reason, like not to grow yourself, not to like up your business, but just to do it, just to enjoy, to go for a walk, not to lose weight, just to do it because you enjoy doing it. I mean, allowing yourself to be in a good spot is so counterintuitive to so many people. And I really want you to hear this today, that like, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to feel good. I tell my clients all the time, if you are not allowing yourself the space to be still, the space to feel good, the space to do things that just strictly make you feel good. I'm doing this accountability challenge through my daily text message group. So it'll probably be over by the time that this podcast comes out. But it's interesting. A lot of the action items and a lot of the things that people are grateful for, because in this challenge, it was like, send me one action item and send me what you're grateful for. And a lot of people, action item wise, are like, it's things that they should be doing. And yet very few people, and a lot of people, I'm going to challenge them to do something just for the pure joy of it. But a lot of people are doing things because they should be doing them. And yes, there are seasons where you have to do that. There are moments where you have to do that for your business, for your personal life, for your relationships, for your health. But there also needs to be time where you do it just because it makes you feel good. Abraham Hicks is, if you are unfamiliar with Abraham Hicks, definitely send me a text message, 501-222-3362, and I will share with you Abraham Hicks. It's literally one of the greatest things that you can listen to. But her whole entire premise is, the more that you could feel good, the better you are off, because when you are feeling good, good things are attracted to you. It's so much easier to get something that you want when you're in the vibration of already feeling good. And yet it's so weird for a person to choose feeling good over doing something that they think they should be doing. And in this slow seasons of life, I want you to do things that feel good, because not for it's like kind of like tithing. I kind of look at it like tithing. Like some people tithe because they think that something like good will come out of it. And yes, that's typically true, but you're supposed to tithe just because you're supposed to tithe, not because you're like, okay, good, if I give God this, he's going to give me something, right? It's like, you're supposed to do it just because you're supposed to do it. And like chances are something good will come out of it because you're like, leaning on God and you're like trusting what he's telling you to do. But also you're not supposed to do it just to get something good. But it's the same thing with like doing something that makes you feel good. You don't do something that makes you feel good because you're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to get this good thing out of it. But you do it for the feeling that you get of feeling good. And then chances are when you're in feeling good, just like Abraham Hicks says, it's like the more you can feel good, the more that you can do things that feel good and feel in alignment, chances are more good things will come to you. And that's the point, right? Allowing yourself to feel good, allowing yourself the space to feel good for the only premise of feeling fucking good. And chances are from that space, good things will come to you. So I hope this is making sense, but I really want you to understand that like slow seasons are allowed. And if you're constantly pushing yourself to do more and achieve more and make more and more and more and more, it's kind of counterintuitive to actually what you want. You want more so you can slow down. And yet, if you just slowed down, chances are you would get more. And I know, I get it. I have been a type of person who says, like, you have to work hard, you have to push yourself, and all of those things, which is true. But you also have to balance that with allowing yourself to be still and trust that God has a purpose and a reason in these slow seasons. And it's truthfully what you actually want. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the story. It's like about a Mexican fisherman. And if you haven't, Google this and it'll probably pop up. But it's the story about a tourist who comes to Mexico and meets this Mexican fisherman. And this Mexican fisherman like goes out every day and he catches all of these fish. And this tourist guy gets on his boat and he's like, oh my God, I could like bring you down all of these people and you could make all of this money and you could guide these fishing trips and you'd be so busy like making all of this money, and one day you can retire and be a fisherman. Instead of the guy looking at the Mexican fisherman looking at him and being like, okay, well, why would I do all that when the end goal is to retire and fish, when today I get to just fish all day and enjoy it and relax. And it's just like, I don't know if I explained that exactly right, but I think you kind of get the premise, right? It's like he actually has the life that the tourist is working his whole entire life slaving for to get what the Mexican fisherman gets to do every single day. And I think that that's kind of the point of the slow seasons. It's like, if you don't allow yourself to enjoy the slow season, what's the point of working so hard to have the slow season? And chances are when you're in the slow season, there's got to be a purpose and a reason, because what I firmly believe is that you are exactly where you need to be for a purpose and a reason. Maybe this slow season in your life or in your career or in your business is happening because you're going to need to rest for this next burst, for this next opportunity. And if you don't allow yourself the rest now, you might not be ready and prepared for that next burst. Yes, you always have to be taking that next action step and being able and, doing the work that it takes. But also don't force yourself to do something if you're really truly wanting this slow season. And I think that, this podcast has kind of gone all around, and I really hope that you've gotten out of this episode what you needed. But I think for myself, I've just really been allowing myself to trust that this slow season is for a purpose, and trust that, what is for me will find me. And if I keep taking those steps and keep trusting God and keep listening for those next opportunities, like even in this slow season, I'm looking for this next opportunity. And I think that having the space and having the quiet has allowed me to hear these next opportunities. And I haven't heard everything yet. Obviously, I've heard doing this event with my client, Brittany, which I'm so excited about doing. I know that a few of you are already coming. So if you're listening to this and you are thinking of coming to our event in Vancouver, Canada, you should really think about it. I know that so many people have sent me messages about feeling like perhaps they won't, they're not far enough along, they're not an entrepreneur, that they don't know anyone, will they fit in? And the answer is, I promise you, you will. If it is on your heart, it's for a purpose and a reason. And you don't have to be an entrepreneur at all. You don't have to be a mom. You don't have to be coming with even a goal in mind. You can just come because you're trusting that you want to be in this room. You want to meet other like-minded women who want to be anything but average in life, who want to connect with other women who just want more out of life. And that's really why we're doing this event, because we know that there's a huge gap for women who want more out of life. And because not everyone understands that. Not everyone understands slow seasons. Not everyone understands creating something of your own. Not everyone understands wanting a big, beautiful life. Not everyone understands, every season that you're in, but it's always nice when you find that one other person who connects with you. And it's also nice when you have someone telling you that it's okay to be in a slow season. It's okay not to want to hustle all the time. And it's okay to just allow yourself to have the space. And, I think honestly, sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. I truly do believe that. I think sometimes if you don't get clarity on what it is that you want, this is the reason why I do my free clarity calls. I think so many people know that they want something different, but they've never allowed themselves to slow down and get really clear on what it is that they want. And sometimes you're going to have to slow down to speed up. I think that that's sometimes the greatest thing that you can possibly do, is to get clear, to figure out like what actually makes sense, so you can get a good strategy to move forward to actually get where you want to go quicker. And sometimes you're going to need that space, and you're going to have to give yourself that space. And you can't always do the same thing that you've always done, because oftentimes that gives you the same result. And if you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. And I know that that can be very difficult, and it's okay to change. That's something that Brittany and I, my co-host for the Anything But Average event, that's something that she and I have been talking a lot about lately, is the fact that it's okay to change. It's okay to do something different. It's okay to do something that not everyone understands. And I think that sometimes that's the greatest thing that you can possibly do, is just to trust yourself. And, it might not always go as planned, and there might be slower seasons, just like I've been talking about all day, is that there might be slower seasons and it might not always make sense, but gosh darn it, it's just so important for you to do the thing that you ultimately know you need to do, to take a big risk, to slow down, to speed up, to get around the right people. It's one of the craziest things, this whole self-development world, and reprogramming your thoughts and the way that you think and how you act, and definitely putting yourself out there of the non-mainstream, as you would say. I've always felt like I've always done things that are very outside of the box of what most people say that you should do. And I'll tell you, I've always said it on this podcast, I'm probably one of the happiest people that you'll meet. And I definitely don't do things very averagely. I definitely don't do things what everyone else, the way that everyone else says that you're supposed to do it. But I promise you, I've created a life in which I'm very proud of, and I've created a life that I enjoy so much. And I've created my own version of success, and I wouldn't trade it for a thing. And there's definitely slower seasons, and I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful that I have the ability to be slow right now, to just kind of slow down, and who knows, maybe I'll speed up soon. But I hope today's message was speaking to you. And if it is, always send me a message, 501-222-3362. It's me who answers all of those text messages. And if you were in my July accountability challenge, it was me, because I've screwed up a few times so far by not, sending the right message on the right day. But I promise you, it is me. I get to do this. I get to do this business. I get to do this career. I get to work with so many people that I just love and adore so much, that I'm so excited I get to walk beside them in life and business. It's truly one of my greatest blessings, and I'm so grateful that I get to do this. And I hope today's episode really helped you. So if you are in a slow season, and if it does feel uncomfortable, just know that you're in the right place, and that if you are meant to speed up, you will. Just keep taking that next action step. Give yourself the clarity. Feel good as much as you possibly can. Enjoy the slow seasons. I'll tell you, reprogramming my thoughts to allow myself to enjoy the slow season is one of the greatest things that I've ever done. And I'm enjoying the hell out of being slow and taking it day by day and just enjoying the process of life. To be honest with you, it's just truly such a blessing, because not everyone gets to think this way and not everyone operates this way. And I'll tell you, it's got to be way better than the alternative. So I appreciate you guys listening today. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next week.